Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly 166. That delay, though. I'm Annie, or also known as Annie Fuchsia. I'm a full-time streamer on Twitch and also your Wowhead Weekly host. My co-host, as usual, is the lovely Perculia.
Hey everyone, I am the site manager for Wowhead. I run all the news and guides and features and all sorts of random stuff on the site. And I always really like doing Wowhead Weekly so I can let all you guys know what the staff has been working really hard on Wowhead. And with the pre-patch coming sometime soon, we don't know when, but probably soon because BFA is soon, there is a ton of stuff just going on that we've been researching and compiling about changes.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's a lot of things that are pointing towards the pre-patch probably being on the 17th. It would be different for NA and EU, right? It would be 17 for NA and then 18 for EU. A lot of things are pointing towards that. For instance, the PvP seasons and some other things as well. So we are probably looking at the pre-patch hitting on Tuesday/Wednesday, meaning there's a lot of things to do before then. And if you're not sure what, don't worry, we will cover everything here. We're also going to be covering what exactly changes with the pre-patch coming in terms of like new content, and also cover the things that, you need to make sure that you do before it hits, just in case, so that you don't miss it. Apart from that, there's not been a real build since, so there's no, so to speak, news. There's no new models or anything like that, but what we have is a compilation of all the things that will change with the pre-patch hit, and have it as a sort of summary for you guys.
Yeah, we have a few minor news things, like people were just discovering stuff on the beta, which we'll get to at the end, but we figured we can run through the pre-patch stuff, answer your questions, cover any beta stuff, remind people of some events going on, and highlight what Wowhead is trying to do with each major thing, like what happens to my artifact or what happens to my, character or stuff like that.
Yeah, people definitely still ask those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard to know if you don't keep up with the news, and you'll just sort of log in that day and be like, what happened to my weapon?
Yep. So, for the first thing we're going to talk about is the Burning of Teldrassil. Is new content that people can do in the pre-expansion patch. This is going to be a staggered quest line, so not all of it will happen in the first week. It will probably be spread out over 2 weeks. I still don't know why it burns.
I really want to know.
I know. We've covered theories in other posts. We want to keep this part kind of spoiler free, but we think in the collector's edition novella, there'll be 2 stories, A Good War and Elegy, covering that event from both perspectives, and that should reveal how the tree burns. And a version without the really pretty collector's edition art will also be posted online. So we don't know when that is, but maybe that will be available soon for us to read. Who knows?
Also, the update for the Battle for Lordran is that will be available a week before BFA, but only for those people who actually pre-purchase BFA. So for people, for example, the Battle for Teldrassil will actually be available for everyone. So for that, you won't have to have BFA. But for the Battle for Lordran, you will need the new expansion.
Right. And anyone that completes Teldrassil will be able to get a special mount, a hippogriff for the Alliance, or a Undercity bat for the Horde.
And we will show you those mounts in just a second, as we will show you some other mounts and other rewards as well.
Yep. Another major topic people really care about are artifact weapons. And there's a lot of change and bad, but also some positives as well. So of course, the shocking change is that all the traits are essentially going away, so your weapon is just a very powerful, hard-hitting weapon. And then the relics increase your item level, not just, they don't boost any abilities, it's just pure eye level gain.
And
but on the good side,
with the pre-patch, the artifacts will already be able to be used as transmog, right? With the other weapons.
Yeah. So And that's really cool for several reasons, because if you happen to use a different weapon set, like if you are a fire mage and you want to use a staff, you can still get the appearance of Philomilorn, even though it's the sword and the offhand. And if you transmog to any of the weapons that talks, it will talk to you. So that's neat as well. And it also works with druid form, so you can translate to that transmog to that really cool bear form or cat form. There's a special UI for it.
It may not feel super relevant at first because you probably won't really find another weapon yet, but it's still good to know that the artifact transmogging is like there as a system. You can see it in your transmog book, and so when the actual expansion hits and you start leveling, you'll see how that will actually look when you can transmog into it. So that's cool.
Yeah, and Annie has a lot of feelings on this, but the Mage Tower challenge appearance cannot be obtained after the pre-patch, and Annie got really into trying to collect them on all specs, so
yeah.
Time is running out for her.
Yeah. In the past, I was like, you know what? I'll just get the Feral one because it's unique. I'll get the Guardian Druid one because it's also pretty unique. But apart from that, I think I'm just going to stick to my Warlock and the different specs. But as of 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I can't just let something go unobtainable without trying to get it all. So since then, I've been trying to do it in other classes, and I'm now at, I think, 20 out of 36. So it's still a bit to go, but I'm going to try. We'll see how far we can get, if we can get all of them.
Yeah, I put a little announcement up on Wowhead that we do have guides for all challenges and all spec. Our class writers have published them, and we also have a guide if you want to do the Mage Tower, but the character doesn't have any gear, and how you can gear up. And I think it's been linked in some Blizzard blogs as well, so definitely check that out. A lot of people have really liked the guide, so hopefully if you're watching and haven't done it, you might like it as well.
I see someone asking if we're going to be running around with no weapon. What happens is that you lose your traits, but the weapon itself will still be there. It will still have stats, so it will still be usable and okay. It's just that the trait part of it, the special part of it, is gone.
Yeah.
So you can still use it. But as soon as the expansion hits, you may not find it that useful for too long.
Right. Speaking of weapons and gear, there are some gear changes coming in the pre-patch. There is a big squish coming. So, Mythic, there's no item level 1,000 legendaries. Loot from Mythic Argus, to give one example, will be item level 250 in the pre-patch, not, 985 or whatever it is. So everything is being squished. So in addition to your artifact losing the traits, the item level will look lower as well. However, you should have roughly the same amount of power in the pre-patch. It's not like, wow, I'm dealing like a fourth more damage. The numbers are spiraling out of control.
Yeah, there were some people who were asking me like, well, like, how is it going to be when I go to old raids if I hit for so little? Like, the game itself should feel the same. If you go and hit, a certain mob that takes you 2 hits to kill it, it should probably still take you 2 hits to kill it. It's just that the numbers will, instead of saying 1 million, it might say like 1K. That's the difference.
Right.
The numbers will be different, but the experience should be the same.
There are also some behind-the-scenes changes happening to stats. This won't be super apparent in the pre-patch, but it will be more apparent as the expansion goes on. And at higher levels, things were kind of snowballing, and some secondary stats were getting very OP, and they have changed it so it's like a more gradual progression of character power. So like, well, if you get the mythic piece of this gear, you'll have like 100% critical strike. Oh my god. So all of that is being scaled back down at item levels more relevant to the actual expansion.
And you go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You can go ahead and share this one.
All right. There's general system changes to the game itself, which might affect...
I was going to say that personal loot is raid loot.
Oh, yes.
As the final gear change. That is important.
Yeah. Good point. Do you have any idea how that's going to affect mounts?
No, but it would be useful to get a response on that. And
Right?
I was also curious in BFA, so if personal loot is raid loot, does that mean Azerite armor is tradable?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Because I've
you
also
know,
heard from people that with the personal loot, it won't be tradable at all. Is that really going to
yeah,
be the case? Like nothing will be
right.
tradable? I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah, so that seems kind of fishy and something that has to be clarified. But I think Blizzard wanted to do this to cut down on things like split runs and people feeling they had to like do all these raids and like try to feed all the loot to one person they really wanted to gear
Yeah, they don't
up.
like the idea of boosting.
Right. So that's why we have this change. And personal loot was being used from many other places in the game. Um, oh, also, I think the seals cap will go down from 3 to 2.
Yep.
Uh, yeah,
I hope with that it increases the chance of actually getting loot.
right. That would be a fair trade-off.
Yeah, like because I was talking about this before as well. I feel like if you would only get one, but it would guarantee you loot when you use it, I would actually much prefer that system
Oh,
because
yeah, you
it's
don't.
already so much RNG. Like you may
Mhm.
get loot, you may not. For the most part, I get no loot. And then when you get loot, it's like the boss can drop 4 different things that you could use. Then you may not get the item that you want. So if it
Right.
guarantees a drop, then at least, you may get the wrong item, but at least you got something.
Right. I would prefer that. I wouldn't mind if the requirements were even steeper if I have greater control or chance of getting something,
Mm-hmm.
then it seems a lot more worth it.
Yeah, like a more powerful seal, but more expensive and only one of them
Mhm.
or something per week.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think I would prefer that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so if we now continue to the next
Mhm.
topic, we go into the idea of changes to the system itself in the game. So one of the controversial, somewhat controversial topics has been the GCD, global cooldown, and a lot of class cooldowns, so a lot of damage buffs, for example, or damage cooldowns have now been added to the global cooldown, which has brought a lot of concern from a lot of
Mhm.
people. People are worried that it's going to make them feel clunky, and they're worried that they're going to spend, 5 seconds just like building up the different buffs that they need. I do think they will, I think Blizzard will consider these things, and, if it is the case that you have 4 different damage cooldowns and they're all on GCD, then I think that they will probably remove 1 or 2 of the cooldowns, maybe combine something, maybe just something to make it feel a little bit less clunky. I don't think they'll stick to 4 cooldowns if it is the case that all 4 have a GCD. I
Right.
think that would be
Also,
too clumsy.
usually, looking at the Legion pre-patch, there was like hot fixes every day with rebalancing abilities. So I imagine there'll be some last minute or early pre-patch, updates every day
Mm-hmm.
to, maybe they might tweak some of these GCD things as well. Who
I'm very
knows?
curious to see what they're gonna do, like especially for someone like a warrior, because they have so many small
Yeah.
cooldowns, like battle cry and a bunch of other things too. And if everything is on GCD, that can feel really clunky.
Hmm. Another change is that Arcane Torrent is being nerfed to where it's not an extra interrupt. It purges another effect, I believe. And that I think will have a lot of PvP implications in the post Legion season, as well as BFA, because that was a very strongly, recommended racial for things like, arena compositions as well
Mm-hmm.
as Mythic Plus. Also, druids and rogues are happy because bleeds and poison ticks can now scale with haste, which I
Mm-hmm.
believe was something they discussed doing in the past and then never did. So people are really happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
And a few classes will now offer raid buff utility. Back at BlizzCon, there's an early version where every raid got something, and that didn't make it through. But I believe 5 classes now have raid buffs for the pre-patch.
Mm-hmm.
There are also some other class changes which are more technical, which may not interest everyone on the show, but if you go to our Battle for Azeroth class changes page, we have everything, listed like, the damage formula, the math has changed, which, may not be that as exciting to talk about on
Yeah.
this general show, but if you care about theory crafting or maybe some abilities are hitting harder than they were because of the formula changing, you may be interested in all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do we have a link for that?
Yes, it is. Should I just paste it to you in Skype?
Or in the doc, I think would be better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that. I'm bright white as the page is loading.
That's okay.
There we go.
It's just I can't look at the chat without messing up your camera. That's the reason.
Right, it's fine. Okay.
So we can share the link with you guys. Yeah. There it is. Okay. There. So if you're interested in more detailed information about more not systematic, that's the wrong word, more system changes, then there you go.
Yep. We did want to go a little bit in more detail about hunter pets, because everyone loves hunter pets, and I think this guide, part of it, a screen cap, got submitted to Reddit, and it had like 17,000 upvotes, so people like hunter pets.
Yeah, people do. Sometimes I get a bit jealous, have to admit. Yeah, we mentioned this before. One of the updates was, for example, having 10 more stable slots.
I'm surprised that you aren't really into having a hunter, because there are so many pets you can collect.
I know. I mean, I love the idea of it. I feel loyal to my warlock. So I can't play something else in a sort of collection way of playing it, you know? Like, I can have a hunter ult, but I can't focus on it.
Right. Well, you could just focus on collecting the pets, but I know the temptation, so...
Yeah, I might have to consider doing that, especially the rare ones. There's some really rare ones that look really cool.
Yeah.
I might have to do that.
So, talking of pets you can collect, there are new pet families introduced in the pre-expansion patch, as well as many other critters that are tamed in existing families. So, the new pet families are the pterodax, Krollusk, toad, and lizard. And then some interesting pet models coming to existing families are all those like unicorn horses are going to be in the stag family. There are bees in the wasp family. And there are some eels coming to the serpent family. And if you remember the old hunter specializations where like one was good for tanking and one was good for DPS, Blizzard has really turned that system on its head. What's happening is that all three pet specializations now deal the same damage and have equal health and armor, but each spec has a different passive and active ability that helps you in different types of content. So for example, Ferocity has the Heroism buff and 10% leech. The Tenacity pet has you take reduced damage and you have 5% increased health. And the Cunning pet, you remove all roots and slowing effects, and increases your movement speed by 8%. So these are more buffs for like general purpose situations. So you don't have to be like, oh, I love my Spirit Beast, but I can't, bring him to the raid. And all the hunter pets have new interesting abilities that are like themed after their family. Even if they do the same thing, they might, like the crane might have tranquility, while the crab has, pin, and the lizard has grievous bite. So everything is meant to reflect the fantasy of that hunter pet. Animal companion is also worth pointing out as part of losing or not using the artifact. People are concerned that Hati, the Beast Mastery wolf, they like having that pet by their side all the time. And there's this talent called Animal Companion that lets you have another pet out. Mostly it's for cosmetic reasons, but also some damage. And that can be a way to tame a pet like Hati and then have that pet running around along with it.
Yeah, I think that will make hunters happy.
Yeah, I'm still curious about the lore though, because a lot of people are just like, oh, I don't like the idea that, my wolf is dying or got corrupted. Can there just be a little note being like, I'm safe, thank you.
Oh, yeah, that would be really sweet. It also says here that when you enter a dungeon, Growl will automatically turn off. Is that when you enter with a group?
I I think it's in general. It just the notes I have from our hunter writers are just when you enter a dungeon, Growl's auto cast is automatically turned off to avoid pulling aggro from the tank. You can turn it back on if you want. When you leave the dungeon, it gets flipped back on automatically.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. Like, hunters
amazing.
have been getting a lot of hate for it. And it's funny because a lot of times, especially with new players, they have no idea what's going on. And it's like, yeah, Hunter, can you stop taunting with your pet? And it's like, I wasn't doing anything. What do you mean? So I think that's actually really good.
Yeah. Another change that will really help is that avoidance has been changed to also reduce the range at which enemies will aggro your pet by 6 yards. So there's no, a lesser chance of your pet accidentally pulling a mob if you're trying to sneak by the mob instead.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, what if I queue as a tank? Well, hopefully not queuing as a tank as a hunter.
Yeah. That would be that there we have some bigger problems going on then.
Mm-hmm. Next topic here, an interesting topic for PvPers out there, is war mode. As you guys may already know, all honor talents are being changed to PvP talents, and one of the main differences also is that the prestige system is going away and is turning into, do you call them honor points or just honor?
The honor levels.
Honor levels, that's it. And with this, it does mean that there's lots of new changes as well on top of that. For example, we have the reward system that we've had with the prestige system. A lot of those are being translated. We're not exactly sure if it's going to be a lot faster to gain them, or do we have any kind of confirmation for that?
We don't know if it's faster. I think so. It will be all the honor numbers are like way different than prestige because it goes up to 500. As opposed to 25.
25. Mm-hmm.
We're not really sure how fast it takes, but based on the conversion, some items will have like lower requirements. If you logged in BFA, you may get some rewards that you didn't previously have, while some requirements will be worse. So I believe there's an add-on that does converting your prestige to honor.
Okay.
And to check that out. But I know the tactician title is, I think, harder to get in BFA, so you should try to meet that requirement now instead of later.
Oh, interesting. Good to know.
Yeah. So there are, like I said, there are 500 levels. The levels are account wide, so if you PvP'd on a lot of alts, you may have a nice surprise waiting for you when you log on. And there's also some new rewards at various levels, like crabs wearing armor and a fancy war unicorn mount.
And war mode, in case you don't know what war mode is basically the new way of switching on PvP when you're outside in the world. In the past, we were forced, or not forced, but we were meant to pick a server where we decide if we want PvP enabled or not. And now all of that is going away, so there's no such thing as this is a PvP server or this is not a PvP server. All servers are either RP or non-RP, I guess you could call it, just normal servers. And the war mode is the equivalent of PvP. So when you switch it on, that means that all the people that you can see are in the same boat as you. They have all also switched PvP on to get the extra rewards that you get with it. For example, increased quest rewards and other little perks to give you a sort of reward for deciding to go on a more difficult task, risking yourself of being attacked from the opposing faction. So that's what's going on. I think it's a lot better system because I know a lot of people happen to be in a PvP server, but they didn't really want to because their friends happen to play there. And this way, you're not forced to play on war mode or on PvP mode. You can decide to play on a more friendly mode, I guess you could call it. Non-war mode, where you're not attacking your enemies. So,
but if you do want to toggle it on, you will get bonuses such as an experience gain.
Experience gain is great too.
I wonder how that's going to work in old Azeroth because, obviously it will work in the pre-patch, but it might feel more dangerous than if you're leveling on like Zandalar or Kulturas, where the factions are more or less, separated on different continents.
Yeah,
but it might actually be kind of risky in the pre-patch with how the factions are always in conflict with each other, and all the zones are sort of mixed in.
And you can only switch war mode on and off in Stormwind or Orgrimmar. At least that's what we know now. Yeah. There's no other cities as of now, at least. They might add it to other cities too, but for now it's only Stormwind and Orgrimmar, which means that, if you make the decision of having war mode on, you can't just change your mind when you see an enemy when you're out questing. You'd have to go back to Stormwind and switch it off.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently it says it works in Garrison as well and Order Hall. Yeah, I guess we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some more rested areas where you can change it. But as of now, the main confirmed areas are Stormwind and Orgrimmar.
Yeah, it does not work in every major city.
No, not right now, at least.
Right. So a social feature that's coming is World of Warcraft communities. This is Blizzard's expanded text and voice chat program. It's a way to be connected to friends. You could meet in Group Finder or other pickup groups. It's an easy way to connect with people. So instead of saying, oh, this was a fun run, let's now, talk in Discord, you can then just talk directly in game on voice. This is not meant to feel like a replacement for Discord. In an interview Ian had with Forbes, he said this is meant to be a complement to Discord as opposed to taking it over. It's a way just to conveniently chat with your friends in game. So if you're typing and you have a really good group, you can just friend each other in game and then not have to go to Mumble or Skype or Discord, another chat. You can just chat directly in the game or across all Blizzard games.
Mm-hmm. I think it's great for a lot of people who feel like they don't want to share information. Right. I mean, I know sharing Discord doesn't necessarily mean now people have your address or anything like that.
Right.
But it's still one extra step of giving something, and that can sometimes feel scary for people. So it is great to have an option to, be able to speak to people in the game without having to give them other kind of contact information. But at the same time, Discord is not completely being replaced at all. You can still use Discord for a lot of different other features and talking to friends as usual. Another interesting thing that I noticed in the post is that the guild chat as well as communities will now have a saved messages sort of function. So no messages are being deleted. Yeah, which is great. I can imagine for, moderation reasons and, just other kinds of reasons to have old logs of the guild chat. I think that's a great thing.
Cool. Yeah. So not too much to say there besides saved messages are good, and this is not meant to replace Discord. So, yeah.
People are mentioning that there's some kind of negatives at the moment, or rather lack of functions that you're not able to properly kick or ban people. I feel like a lot of this is very early stage and will probably be fixed in order for people to feel safe with their communities. I don't think, Blizzard are just going to stand there and watch people, be abused by people joining and saying not very nice things, and they get kicked and then they join again. I'm sure there will be a feature to take care of that as well. Those are very important things. So. Yeah. No, they definitely
people would not want to use it if it didn't have it.
No, it's very important to be able to decide who you want in your room. You can't just be open all the time for everyone.
Right. Let's see. Oh yeah, this one is actually getting a lot of attention on the site right now. It's the updated creature models. There are lots of little critters that are getting updates in Battle for Azeroth. We've been usually highlighting a lot of these every show. There's a ton of them there. My favorites are the elementals, the new water elemental, fire and earth. And the cats, of course. Bright Paws here. Bright Paw, you got an update. And one that the prairie dog. Everyone loves that because it was such a basic model, and now it's very high definition and detailed.
This is the old one for reference, and then we have the new prairie dog there. There's also some other models that are being updated. As an example, I can show an old hunter pet and the new version of it. So more HD, just looks better overall. Makes the game feel newer, more modern. And it's cool to see these kind of updates on just like any kind of critters outside in the world or pets. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of work has been put into these. It's not just, 10. It's like dozens of model types have been updated, and within each type there are many colors. And going back to cats, in addition to the updated cats now have a variety of body options. So there's more variation. So you have the regular cat, but then you have a large cat, then you have a cat with long fur, and then you have a big pudgy cat.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, like right now there's no differences in cat forms, right?
You mean like pet cats? There's no differences.
Pet cats.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but now they have a ton of variation, which is cool because there's a crazy cat lady house in Borealis, and she has 25 cats.
Mm-hmm.
So. Also, bear form and cat form have also received animation updates, as well as bears in general. So when they run and walk, it is more noticeably different. So not only guardian form, but all the artifact forms and things like the Dark Moon Bear mount or the Blizzard Bear mount, all of that's been updated as far as how those models move.
Mm-hmm. I noticed someone in the chat mentioning about communities. So just jumping back a little bit.
Yep.
Concerns about not wanting to be able to see a lot of random messages and such. Communities are completely optional, as how it looks at the moment, at least. Imagine you don't want to be in a guild, you just simply don't join it. It's the same with communities. If you don't want to be a part of the community, you just don't join it. You're not going to be spammed with messages randomly, so you'll be okay. And as of pugs, people who may want to use voice for pugs will, possibly, have to be a little bit careful with, new people and everything. But I think for the most part, there's actually a lot of groups going on for good intentions, and having not to use a third-party option for voice will be great for those people. And you can always opt out of voice as well. You don't have to be forced to use it just to get bullied or anything like that.
Right. And if you're not interested in using it, there are lots of Discord servers that help facilitate finding groups, and all the people on there are screened and trusted. So you can go that route. If you keep looking in group finders like must be comfortable using voice and be on this program in XYZ, if that's not for you, I'm sure there's another group on Discord that can help you find people that have different requirements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, moving on from creatures to spell animations, it's not just things like cat and bear form that have gotten updated. Warlocks, as we've discussed a lot, are also getting new animations, as they were not part of the 7.3.5 caster revamp. But they've gotten a lot now going into 8.0, all three specs. I think my favorite is the big Chaos Bolt animation.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I was just about to play it, so let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to these changes. Ah, there you go. Awesome Chaos Bolt. I'm really happy with the new Warlock updates. They've updated all sorts of things, not just like proper the spells. It's also things like dots that have been updated, and Soul Will, like we saw last week, and all sorts of Warlock spells have been updated. I'll also quickly play the demo video for you guys.
Yep.
See the Shadow Bolt. I believe in this video they also showed a quick clip of how it used to look.
Yeah, we try to have them all be side by side at some point in the video.
There we go. Here we can see it, left and right. It's funny because I remember how it used to look before the current live one. So like seeing the transition or like progression, I guess, of the spell is so cool.
Brightpaw is being a little annoying. Sorry if I'm making faces. He's biting. He's like biting my arm.
Aww.
Brightpaw, no. I love you.
That's amazing,
Stop
right?
biting the arm.
I really like the updates with the Warlock, and I remember being excited for the new Shadow Bolt back then, which was, I don't know when that was, like Cataclysm or something, a long time ago, and then now we're getting a new, like, pretty major update. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, Brightpaw.
Oh, Brightpot. He's like, move out of the chair. This is my spotlight.
Okay, well, now he's right in front of me, so I can't really see the screen. Oh, well.
That's okay. As long as you can see Brightpaw, you're safe.
But yeah, so all these animations are coming in the pre-patch. And just to highlight a few more models tied to the animations, Dwarf Paladins will get a new ram mount they can summon. Shamans have new fire and earth elementals. Mages have those new water elementals. Bear and cat form are updated. There was a really cool Holy Light animation that was pulled, I think, because it didn't work on all races that well, but hopefully it will be back. But we put pictures of that in the post as well. And there's a few other, minor abilities here and there, but Warlocks definitely are in the spotlight for this.
I see a question. Do we have a date for the pre-patch? We do not have a date for the pre-patch, but it is highly likely that it will hit on the 17th for NA and 18th for EU. There's a lot of things that are pointing towards it. One of them being the PvP season. Another thing also being the Mage Tower being promised to be up for about 2 weeks, and that is exactly the 2-week period ending. So there's a lot of small things like that that is pointing towards it being the 17th, but there's no official announcement as of yet.
There also hasn't been a lot of news, like there hasn't been many data mining builds or breaking news on Blizzard's end. So if for some reason it's not the 17th, we still probably be talking about it because there isn't a ton of stuff to put in the show notes.
Yeah, there's no real new build to talk about. I think they're just waiting with all the new stuff to be done for the pre-patch itself.
Yeah.
So when do they normally announce the pre-patch? Because I was guessing like a week beforehand. So...
I mean, I would guess it as well. It seems kind of weird that we don't know anything yet.
Like, would this point towards it being another week, or does this happen sometimes?
So it's hard to say because, like throughout Legion, they've tried to be super unpredictable and keep people on their toes. And for 7.2 or 2.5, we had hardly any notice, I think.
Okay.
Maybe it was 7.2. But with so many changes and how things are going away, if there was a deadline, that's good. So people are like, oh, like it's, then like I'll make sure that I, don't make plans this weekend so I can get some things done.
Because I feel like, Mage Tower is going away is pretty major, and not knowing the pre-patch is like, do I stress myself and gear all my characters like ASAP, or do I just, do I have an extra week? Like, what do I do?
Right. Or it's funny, maybe Blizzard's like, well, we thought it was the 17th. Looking at all this Mage Tower data, there are all these people like Annie who are now really into it, so maybe it'd be good for the game if we like... I mean, you never know if all of a sudden if they're like, hey, looking at trends, we're seeing that less people got to play with 4th of July, but everyone is really coming back now, and maybe it makes sense to... It's, like a lot of people are not around for the 4th of July in the US. Like it's a big holiday, people travel, they have to, host things with families. So you never know if outside factors would make them want to do something on the 24th if they think like not enough people were able to take advantage of a certain part of the game.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we will see.
Is it possible they would announce it like a day before the pre-patch?
I think that would be weird. I don't think. I think that would be like weird for backlash.
Because the weekend is coming up. They can't announce it on the weekend, so they would have to announce it tomorrow, Friday?
Right. And there's also things like, if you're a streamer and you don't really play WoW, like you may want to plan out your schedule. And if it's suddenly like, oh my God, we have to like do the pre-patch because it's variety and the pre-patch is interesting. Like, you like planning out your schedule and just prepping like, what games to do on certain days. I just think, also for promotional things, it would be weird not to announce it.
We'll probably hear tomorrow. If it is indeed the 17th, we will probably hear about it tomorrow. I doubt it would be on Monday because, that would be a day before the pre-patch.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I was not, on the internet that day. I didn't realize that stuff's going away. Help.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, as we mentioned earlier on, Sass is not around to pick up questions, but as I see them in the chat, I'll try to pick them up and answer them as we go if it's somewhat fitting with what we're speaking about.
So the next topic we have is character customization updates coming. And there are a few pretty impactful things The first is that you can make upright orcs. You choose the posture option at the barber shop for them.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty awesome because that means, you wouldn't have to create a new one. You can just change your current orc. And that's good news for a lot of orcs.
Yeah.
Try out a new look. You might like it, you may not.
I believe all newly created orcs will be defaulted to the upright posture,
Mm-hmm.
and when the orc allied race is available in Battle for Azeroth, they will have this option as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know if you will like how this orc will look or not, our dressing room has a posture option, so you can import your character and then play around with the posture.
Mm-hmm. For more character customization updates, there is also the golden eyes, as you guys may remember that we mentioned a while ago. I'll show you guys the picture of the female version and also the male version. So these should also be available with the pre-patch, and I believe these were also available in the barber, right? Okay. Perk is
dying on water. Yes, these will be available on the character creation screen and the barber shop as well.
It's funny when people can't see you because I can see you, but I was showing a picture. So like I'm seeing you there like dying, coughing.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I hope you're okay. Not being able to respond. But yeah, they should be available at the barbershop too.
Yep. Speaking of Blood Elf updates, some of the male faces had too much duck face, and they have been adjusted ever so slightly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everyone's usually happy with this change.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, skin color customization can now be changed at the barbershop. Formerly, this was not an option to all races. So if you wanted to change it, you would have to like actually get a character change. But yeah, this also works even for Death Knights, so you can change their both their eyes and their skin to have different, like the weird undead skins versus the normal tints as well.
It feels like you can change everything now. So does that mean the option to buy an appearance change is not there anymore?
That's a good point. I mean, maybe if the appearance change could also involve a race change, but yeah, it doesn't really make sense to get and pay for an appearance change. All that seems to be in game.
Yeah. Oh, someone mentioned that appearance change still changes your gender. So
okay.
I guess there is that. But apart from that, you're getting all the options. I remember back when you barely got any changes. Like you could only change like your hair and piercings pretty much. But it seems like you can change most things now.
Yeah. As a fun side note, Wowhead's dressing room now has a randomize button. So when you select a character and you lock in a race and gender, you can hit randomize and it will put together a bunch of options. So if you want any inspiration making a new character, you can get a bunch of different appearances generated.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Apparently, you could also change your name with an appearance change.
Oh, okay.
So it's a gender change and name change together.
We should just call it that.
Call it name change and then gender change.
Yeah. Because appearances are really in game. I don't want it when I think appearance. I don't think I'm changing my name.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. But it kind of comes with it because what if you change your appearance and then your name doesn't make sense anymore? Like, what? I think that's why they have to give the name change. It's not meant to be like a name change, but it's like you have to have it because it doesn't make sense. Like if you change gender, for example, then what if your name used to be Maria and now it's a guy?
Right. Right.
Then you need to change your name too.
Right.
I think that's the case with, so if you server change, you don't necessarily get a name change. But if the name is already taken. But if you faction change, do you get a name change there? I think you do because your name might be.
Alliance, so.
I think if you faction change, you do get a name change because otherwise your name may not make sense.
I could see that, like if you're like, I love Jaina, and you're like,
Yeah, exactly, and then you change to some horde race, and then it doesn't make sense anymore. I think as you choose what race you want, you also get to choose a new name.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But yeah, for the more, a little bit more fun part for a collector, I apologize for that noise. I don't even know if you heard it, but
A little bit.
a little bit. For the interesting part for collectors out there, we have a quick summary or a quick recap of all the rewards for collecting a bunch of toys, pets, and mounts. Let me get the pictures up as well so you can see them. First one up is the Biting Frost Shard Core, which is the new reward for 350 mounts collected.
This is a recolor of some of the Infernals that you could get from Legion bosses, specifically Gul'dan. Mm-hmm. And I think there are still 2 more unused tints, so maybe they'll make an appearance at some point.
I actually love this mount. I'm really happy about this one. I can't wait to get it. The second mount, which is also a new reward, is the Frenzied Talon. And this mount is a reward for getting 400 mounts. I'm not as excited about this one. I'm not a big fan of the color, and also the mount feels less exciting compared to the Infernal before.
So I like birds, so I'm excited about it, but I see how the Infernal has a really cool mount special where it sort of like throws its head in the air, and that is appealing.
Yeah, it feels unique in that way.
Yeah.
But this mount model was one of my favorites when it just came out, so I can understand people who do like it.
Yeah.
I was just hoping for something a little bit more unique and a little cooler for 400 mounts.
And it's also a ground mount, but we're also not flying at the start of Legion, so it's not the end of the world now, but people may want a flying mount later on in BFA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the mount for 400 should have been a flying, to be honest.
Originally it was, but people didn't like that mount, so that mount went away.
Yeah. But I like that mount better than this one. But it's gone now. It's gone. Another reward that we have here is, let's see, the mount for 100 Exalted reputations. I like this mount a lot better.
Yeah, this one is awesome. It's a pretty pastel unicorn.
I like the color. It looks sweet, and it's simple but really pretty. Yeah,
I really like it.
It is also a recolor of a mount, but I still like it. I think it's alright.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people who are PvPing wouldn't really. It's not the biggest deal if like the armored dark unicorn is now a recolored pastel one, and the Lucid Nightmare is so distinctive that the people worked hard trying to get that puzzle. So yeah, I think I like this one a lot.
I like this one too. We have an achievement for collecting 400 toys, and the reward for that is this one called Brutus. So is Brutus a toy?
Brutus is a pet, which is a little weird because you think the toy box should reward a toy, but instead we have it's a Bright Paw stop.
Yeah, because I was about to say Brutus the pet, and I'm like, wait, I don't want to say something wrong.
It looks like a robo dog, so not like an actual puppy, but if a kid wanted a robotic puppy because his parents wouldn't let him have a puppy.
Yeah. Well, I guess the idea is like 400 toys, so we're gonna give you a toy, but it's so advanced that it's now a pet too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess that's the idea of it. Speaking of pets, there is also a new reward for collecting 800 pets, 800 unique pets, and that is this little fella here. Its name is Rooter, and it's sort of a mechanical prairie dog.
Yeah, which we just were discussing how they went from being very low model quality to very high detailed model quality. And finally, we've got Harvey, who is the reward for 1,000 unique pets, and he is a little Hearthstone elemental, and also a nod to the Hearthstone game as well, and the Hearthstone obviously from WoW. So very cute pet.
I really like it. I'm really happy about this because the 1,000 goal is something that I have not reached yet. So that means it's something that I'm actually going to be working towards. So that's awesome. That's one of the things that was a little bit disappointing with the mounts. They have new rewards for 350 and 400, but I already have more than 400. Whereas with these pets, I'll actually have something to work towards. And yeah, I see someone in the chat as well who has 911 unique pets. So that means you also got something to look forward to work towards. That's always fun to see that.
Yeah. Also, we talked about prestige a little bit, but just to remind players, there is a reward for honor level 500, the prestigious Bloodforged Courser. Which is, it looks like the other coursers, but it has like more armor, and the horn and the feet are on fire. And there are 2 pets, Sir Snips and Bucket Shell, for hitting honor level 400. And also, as we were discussing before, there are 2 mounts from the pre-expansion content, the War-Torn Reigns of the Undercity Plague Bat and the Smoldering Reigns of the Teldrassil Hippogriff. That you get for doing the full Teldrassil questline.
The Hippogriff is the reward for Alliance players, and the Bat is the reward for Horde players, as you probably could have guessed, but just mentioning in case. Just in case you don't know. And to answer chat, no, there is no reward as of yet for 450 mounts, unfortunately. Maybe
that tempestuous Sky Stallion horse that we liked originally as the 400 reward.
That would be awesome if they just added it.
Yep.
Moving on to another topic in time for pre-patch. I almost said in time for prestige. In time for pre-patch are the pet charms. If you have pet charms in your bags on all your ults, remember that you can send them all to one character and make sure that you actually spend them. The reason for this is because a lot of the rewards that you now think that you can buy from the vendor will no longer be available. When I say not available, I mean not available for pet charms. Because in the new expansion, there's going to be a new currency called, I actually don't remember what they were called. Do you?
It's the polished.
Yes, that's
polished
it.
Pet charm.
Polished pet charms. So things like the stone that levels your pet instantly to 25, the stone which gives 1 level to your pets. Most of those items will be purchased for polished pet charms and not the ones that you have right now. So if you have pet charms, spend them all. Even if you don't know what pet to use them on, just buy them all, stack them in one of your alt banks or something, because they should be across accounts anyways, and use them when it's what's relevant for you.
The cost will also be increasing from 45 of the old charm to 60 of the new charm. So it's just a good deal now. It's like they're discounted.
No. So the pet charms, sorry, not no to you. I should repeat the question before I say no.
Yeah.
Sorry. There's a question. Will we get gold leftover pet charms? And the answer is no, because the pet charms will still be there. It's just that most of the rewards that are the most interesting will be sold for polished pet charms instead. So you'll still be able to buy things like the toys and the pets that are available for the pet charms, since that is tied to this expansion.
Right, so like the pets added in Legion and the toy, like the Narcissa Mirror, that is for the Legion pet charms. But if you want to buy the generic battle stones, as well as things like a vendor pet in BFA, that takes the new type of pet charm.
I just realized when I'm like, no. I was reading questions in my head. But yeah, so yeah, just make sure you spend your charms if you are interested in getting those pet stones for a good deal before the new polished pet charms.
Yeah. Also, a quick recap of what to get done before the pre-patch. Since we've discussed all the things coming, we wanted to say, what you should do because it might be going away. We covered the Mage Tower already. The head of the curve and cutting edge Argus feats of strength will not be obtainable. However, Violet Spellwing is still available until BFA proper. The Chosen title and the transmog with that will not be obtainable. The Field Medic achievement and title will not be obtainable because First Aid is going away. And Ashran and Strand of the Ancient are also not available since I think Blizzard is moving them out of the new PvP queue as they rework things to maybe bring them back at a later point.
Yeah, I think they're working on bringing it back. I don't think they're just gonna remove them, but
yeah.
I guess we'll see.
Yep.
And also, of course, the Mage Tower.
Mm-hmm.
The Mage Tower, as you guys may know already, it gives you a special appearance if you beat it for your spec. And this appearance can, in BFA, be used as transmog when you play that spec. And if you do not do the Mage Tower before the pre-patch, which is likely in a few days, those will no longer be available.
Yeah. So get them done now.
I see a question of Mythical Den Argus Mount drops changes. Those have, in the past, always been the same until the BFA actually hits. So it's probably going to be changed for the launch itself. So the Violet Spellwing, the amount you get for killing Heroic Argus, will stay until BFA hits, the launch itself, not the pre-patch. And Gul'dan, the Mythical Den, and the Mythic Argus mounts will stay as 100% drop chance until the launch as well. And once it's launched, it will change to 1% drop chance.
Exactly. So you don't need to worry about getting it now before the pre-patch, but do get that if you really want it before BFA.
Mm-hmm.
So this concludes the pre-patch section of our news and notes. We did have a few beta and general announcements that we wanted to mention to wrap up the show. The first was that in Orgrimmar, the Magheart orcs now have an outpost, but this is kind of controversial because last week we were talking about the Dark Iron Dwarf hub, and they basically get a chunk of Blackrock depths with unique NPCs in it. So a lot of people feel that maybe the Magheart orcs didn't really get, the best deal here, that they just sort of took over a building. It is an interesting building, at least. You have them kind of training side by side with the, Orgrimmar orcs, but it does feel kind of small. Like they're not even around the entire city. They're just sort of hanging out in like one hut, training with a warrior. So maybe it would have been cool if they integrated them more into the city. So like walking in the streets or, at the bars, or having them hang out with their like actual real universe equivalent. That would be kind of funny. But maybe there's still time to sprinkle some more NPCs throughout Orgrimmar. That would be useful. Like I'm picturing like if there was like a Magheart orc priest hanging out in the healing section, like the orcs are like, how come you can heal and we can't? Or having like the Shadow Moon clan hanging out by the Warlock area in the Drag, or just having them hang out in ways that are fun for flavor. Maybe just having them hanging out around the city, I think would be useful. But now they're just in one building. So.
And I'm not a horde player myself, so I don't know these buildings very well. But apparently this building was just filled with green orcs before, and now it's been, simply put, just changed to brown orcs. And I can understand the disappointment in that, but hopefully there will be some more changes to make people feel a little bit more special, being a Magheart orc.
Yeah, this is the first iteration, and we've seen that other things usually have more updates going into them before they are going live. And just to recap the Dark Iron Dwarf one, you can access it via the Mole Machine racial, and as part of that, when you get to the city, it's an instance version of Blackrock Depths, so the bar is friendly to you, and you see a lot of famous NPCs walking around, and there's even a Corehound puppy trainer, and the Corehound mounts are doing little tricks. So there are a few nice touches in that part of the city. And the Horde one, I don't even think there's like a similar mount trainer with the wolf. I think there's just like the building.
I think now that you put it in perspective like that as well, I'm pretty sure that they do have more work coming in. It feels weird to have such a drastic contrast between the two.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of more,
speaking
of more cool Dark Iron Dwarf stuff, the Mole Machine Mole Machine is a really cool racial, as you guys may have heard already. It's a way for Dark Iron Dwarfs to transport or teleport from any area to a major city. So right now, it looks like you have access to Stormwind and Ironforge. I almost said Orgrimmar. Stormwind and Ironforge by using this Mole Machine racial. But it looks like you can also unlock more locations around the world, so you can teleport to those areas as well.
Yeah, this is a fun little mini game that people who like secrets were working on, and there are mole machines all over the world, like the Throne of Flame, the Elemental Plateau in Nagrand, Neltharion's Vault in High Mountain. Just lots of funny places. It's kind of funny how you can like time travel and go to Draenor with your mole machine racial.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty cool racial. It doesn't actually do anything, but it's just kind of a neat flavor thing. I don't think any of the other allied races have a flavor racial like this. The Mag'har Orcs certainly don't. So people are like, oh, like they got this cool racial and they got this cool starting zone. But yeah, this is not a comprehensive list of points, but there's still, over a dozen points that have been discovered so far.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, another allied race update. We don't know when they're coming, but there's the Kul Tiran human allied race. And a few months ago, we highlighted how lots of the female faces got an update to show things like scars or, droopy eyes or freckles. And now the male faces have gotten a similar treatment. Previously, there were 2 faces, and now recently they have 7 faces with a variety of, battle-torn, pirate options.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of allied races, I see a lot of discussion in the chat. So to give a recap, what happens when... the first things that happens when BFA launches is that we sort of gain access to the Kul Tirans and Zendalari factions as themselves, and then we will work towards unlocking those allied races for, both the Alliance and the Horde. And later on in the future, we don't know exactly when or how, that's when we will gain access to Mag'har Orcs and Dark Iron Dwarfs. So they're not coming straight away.
Right, so we have to do the war campaign to get those 2 factions, and we don't know how we will get the Kul Tiran and Zandalari. There will have to be more story quests to earn their trust.
Wait, so in which order is it? Is it first?
Dark Iron, so we do the war campaign, and when you finish the war campaign and unlock like Mythic Siege of Borealis, then you get the Dark Iron and Mag'har Orcs. It's like we're at this impasse, now we need to get more allies to help with the war. Okay. And then when we continue doing more story stuff, then we get Kul Tiras and Zandalari.
All right.
Because we started off on pretty bad terms with both factions, and now we need to like keep getting better with them.
Mm-hmm. I focus so much on the story with Zandalari and Kul Tiran that I actually thought Dark Iron Dwarfs and Mag'har Orc is like later.
No, they were like announced late. No, they were not announced. Blah. I think we learned more about them. Like Zandalari Druid Form was like one of the first things we learned about. So I think they were very strongly emphasized, and then Kul Tiran, I think, was a surprise race. People were like, oh, like Kul Tiran's coming, like they must be coming next. And then Mag'har Orcs were, also a surprise. But yeah, so it goes Dark Iron Dwarf, Mag'har, and then some point later, Kul Tiras and Zandalari.
Gotcha. Lucky we got Perk here, so I don't tell you guys the wrong things.
Aw. Bright Paw is thumping his tail at me, being like, allied race order is important.
And now chat knows as well.
We also have, while not WoW related, Warcraft universe related, Hearthstone announced their new expansion this week, and it is Netherstorm and Dr. Boom themed. It is the Boomsday project, so we expect to see lots of fun references to, Area 52 and Dr. Boom and ethereals, and because it's sciencey, I almost expect to see some like weird Azerite cards showing up in there. And that expansion will be releasing, I believe, the week before Battle for Azeroth. So if you want something else to do, now you have something to do.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing to mention, the last specific thing to mention as news is that as you guys may know, when you go to the wowhead.com, there is a front page, and on the front page there is a Today in Broken Isles little section, which basically shows like live updates to what's happening. For example, things like when is the next invasions in Broken Isles, or when is the next just any kind of like important good to know stuff straight away. Even things like how much is a WoW token worth right now. Mm-hmm. It's live updates. And something which has been updated with this thing is that the class guides have now become more focused, so that you can see and be able to pick the class that you want to read more about for the pre-patch. So it's it's been modified to make it more relevant for you guys, because I'm sure when the pre-patch hits, one of the main things that you guys are interested in is what will change with my class. So if you go to wow.com, you'll see how it's a pretty big class icon, and you just click the one that you're interested in.
Yeah, the stuff we de-emphasized were things like, we said these gigantic green bars for like, Mage Tower progress, and it didn't really seem relevant because it's always at 100% and it's also going away. So that whole building section is tucked away as text. The Radar IO section will be making a return for Uldir, but as people have pointed out, it's not really helpful to know that, 2,000 guilds have cleared Mythic and Taurus. It's more exciting when there's like 5.
Yeah.
And we used to have Netherlight Crucible guides where, we're taking them down with the artifact thing, and instead we're having a bigger pre-patch section. So we'll be making more updates closer to Battle for Azeroth, because we want to track things like, Warfront progress. But yeah, we hope you enjoy the class guides. We have the list of what changed is up, but we also have some guides specifically for the pre-patch coming, as well as all the, subsections like rotation and talents and gear and stats. All of that will be updated for the pre-patch, and then again for Battle for Azeroth.
Mm-hmm. I see a little discussion going on in the chat about appearances. So if you obtain the artifact appearance on one character, it saves on your account as, let's say, Holy Paladin appearance. Meaning if you have a different paladin who didn't do Mage Tower, you should still be able to transmog it.
Yeah, but it has to be the holy spec.
Yes.
They can use it on.
Yes, it has to be. It's spec locked, but it's not character locked. So,
so it's like the class mounts.
Yeah, it's the same with class mounts. It's the same with heritage armor, for example. Like I got my heritage armor on a Void Elf, and I used my BFA boost to boost a Void Elf, and now both of those characters can use the heritage armor. Because if you remember, you can only use the heritage armor, or you can only unlock them by leveling from 20 to 110. And when I boosted my 110, that character didn't have the heritage armor, but as soon as I unlocked it, that character had access to it as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And also, an interesting fact as well with the Mage Tower, or just appearances in general, is that when you transmog into an artifact, as you are in that spec, it doesn't matter what weapon type you're using. So if you're using like if you're using a dagger and a shield, and your artifact weapon is, or was in Legion, a staff, then you will transmog into a staff, even though you're not using a staff.
Right, and Holy Paladin is a great example because usually they have shields, but in BFA you have this, like, two-handed mace thing. And there aren't very many healing weapons like that traditionally. So the idea is that, you shouldn't feel like, oh, I can never use this good weapon because I can't transmog to my artifact. So they're sort of, loosening that, like, daggers can only be dagger restriction. They found some tech around it. In this specific example, if you want to transmog to, like, a cool staff from Wrath of the Lich King and you're using a dagger, you won't be able to do that.
And we did already talk about Mage Tower. We're just responding to some questions in the chat. If you guys have any other kind of questions, like, go for it. I've been trying to read as many questions as I see, because I know with the pre-patch people have a lot of questions. So we're just trying to cover as many as possible. Oh my god, so I can transmog my feral to have fist weapons finally. So I don't know what weapons feral use exactly.
Yeah, the Guardians have the claws and the feral has the dagger.
Okay. Yeah, so you can transmog into that in next expansion, even if you're using, for example, a staff.
Right. And if you are in the Guardian spec, then you can transmog to the claws. But if you are a Feral spec, you cannot have that Fist type transmog.
Okay, so the Fist type transmog is Guardian?
Yeah, it's the Claws of Ursoc, while the Feral base weapons are the daggers.
Okay. Yeah, so as Feral, you can't transmog into the Fist weapons, but as Guardian, you can, because that's the correct spec.
Yep.
That's it. If I fail Chosen, can I do it again with the same character, or it's locked to the ID? It is unfortunately locked to the ID. So if you have tried it this week and failed it, you would unfortunately need to have a different character to work on.
That reminds me, like, Blizzard should maybe give some more advance notice, because if you, like, failed it and you wanted to try on a different character, you know, with lockouts, it's good to know, like, you know, you have one more lockout to try the Chosen. Stuff like that would be useful.
Yeah, I was expecting, like, a week in advance, which might still be the case, but then that means it wouldn't be on the 17th. When it's pre-patch, we don't know for sure. A lot of things are pointing towards the 17th, but we are a little bit concerned that there still hasn't been any announcement.
I thought there was going to be an announcement during the show.
Yeah.
Just, you know how, like, I think one time we're ending the show and then it was like, oh, there's a beta build, seems small, and then it was like, oh, it added all the stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's getting kind of late, especially because, you know, people tend to go on, you know, it's the middle of the summer, and, you know, it's like really hot in the US. People tend to like take 3-day weekends, or, you know, take mini vacations or do other things. So I thought we would have gotten an announcement by now. I mean, maybe they were thinking it would be the 17th, and that's why maybe they did stuff changed. Like the arena event was this weekend to be right before the patch, but maybe something changed, and now they're like, well, we actually want to make sure this horrible bug doesn't go live. In which case, you know, we'll adapt. We didn't have a ton of new news this week to talk about, so it made sense to go over the pre-patch. So if it doesn't happen for a week, I'm sure there'll be a new round of news, or more time to write guides or other fun stuff with that extra time. It's win-win either way. We know it's not going to be like a week before, though, because we know that Teldrassil has to take up like 1 or 2 resets, and then Lordran is the week before if you've bought it. So that's like 3 weeks minimum you need for it.
Then it has to be the 17th, right? Or
it could be the 24th, because it could be the 24th, week 1 Teldrassil, 31st tree burning, 7th you go to Undercity.
Yeah, okay, so it could technically be the 24th.
Yeah.
It's pushing it, though. It's pushing it.
Yep.
Someone mentioned, isn't it always a 2-week notice on the PvP season end? The season end has already been mentioned, right?
Yeah. Well, they didn't say when it ended, but they announced it Thursday, the day after the 4th of July. So it's usually 2 weeks. Historically, it could be 3. They didn't exactly say it was a 2-week warning, just a things are coming soon warning.
Okay. Gotcha.
Oh, that reminded me. There's actually one little piece of news that came up after I did the notes.
Okay.
So Laura Pie on Reddit, on Amazon, Blizzard is selling the 2019 official 16th month calendar, and all the art images for World of Warcraft, the ones we know of, have come from past animated shorts like Lords of War, or like the Illidan, you know, kind of animated art cinematic. And there are some new ones, and these new ones appear to be of Ashara, Jaina, and Sylvanas. And based on the media day I attended in April, Blizzard was saying that the Burning of Teldrassil artwork would be part of some, like, you know, pretty artwork, heavy animated cinematic. And then an interview, I think, with a Chinese fan said it was not in English, but they were saying that animated shorts were coming, so we understand the different motivations of characters and see that, like, they're all sympathetic even if they seem evil or not your faction. So let me just link this to you quickly. I don't know if you want to pull it up on the screen quickly, because it is interesting.
Could you link it? And
yes.
You are perfect.
Yeah. So if we look at this and pull it up, we can see that January appears to be Queen Ashara. underwater, and then March appears to be her transformation into a Naga. And then we can see that
Give
June...
me just a second,
okay.
So people can also follow on.
Yep.
I've almost got it. So where was this piece of news? Where did you find this?
It was found on Reddit, and I confirmed it by going to the Amazon purchase page for the calendar where they had this image as part of their item preview.
Gotcha. All right. The picture is up, so you can mention it again.
Okay, so you can see that some of these, like, May is obviously the Legion cinematic for Illidan, and September is one from Lords of War, and then, February, you have Adrenai in front of Talador. But the new ones we have here, January and March appear to be Queen Ashara. One is when she's underwater after the Sundering, and then March is when she is in her transformed Naga form, and we know that she will be the final boss of an upcoming raid. Then for Jaina, if you look at June, you have Jaina being ferried kind of by some Grim Reaper type character, and then October seems to be a shot in that same weird forest from a farther back angle. And that ties into how Jaina's story kind of has a rocky start at the start of Battle for Azeroth. It's not very welcoming. And then, so the Sylvanas one is interesting because we've got what appears to be Arthas, and then November appears to be Sylvanas in her ranger form. Some people have thought it was Ilaria, but the armor does not, the armor looks a lot closer to Sylvanas, the way the feathers are and the shape of the shoulders. So those two images, and they also have the same lighting in the background, so those two images imply that we can maybe see like an origin story cinematic for Sylvanas, where, we see her when she was like, happy and not, transformed by Arthas, and, sort of like why, like sort of her motivations and fear of losing everything and always having, to fight for survival. And then December is showing the tree before it burns, so that could, maybe the cinematic is like, okay, we're seeing Sylvanas before she was undead, then we're seeing her rise in the Undercity, and now we'll actually see the tree burning from her perspective. So that could be an interesting progression. So yeah, those seem to be tied to these sort of like animated, not like in-game cinematics, but cinematics that are like art-based as the core for the visuals.
I see people asking in the chat where to get this calendar. Did you mention Amazon?
Yep. I'll pull up the link right now. So
those are some really cool pictures.
It's actually been on sale since June 1st, 2018.
Okay.
So
there it is.
So it's not even like, oh, Amazon Prime Preview happened to put up something they maybe shouldn't have, like, before the storm. This is like, oh, you can actually hang this on your wall right now.
Yeah. So we're the news was that someone just pointed this out, or was some of the pictures new?
So the news was that so we had vague hints that these animated shorts were coming. We didn't know who was in them. And the news was, hey, so I looked at this calendar, and all the other images appear to be from these cinematics, and there are some new ones, and, it would logically make sense that these are the characters that will be in these mystery cinematics. And also just confirmation because, like I said, when I was recapping that interview where it was announced, I just had a written interview that was not in English. I didn't have the English audio source. Yeah. So I was concerned maybe like the words got
I remember that one.
So
sometimes things get lost in translation.
Yeah, so I didn't want to be like, oh, there's a cinematic, and they meant, oh, no, it's like, an article instead of a comic. I thought, you don't know if something's lost. But yeah, so it appears it would make sense that, we had one on Gul'dan last time, and now we'll have one on Ashara as like the villain's origin story. And then we also had, what was it, Illidan, and why am I blanking on it wasn't Khadgar. Was it Khadgar?
I don't remember.
The third Legion one. But yeah, it makes sense that like, Jaina and Sylvanas could be like an Alliance major character and then a Horde major character.
Gotcha. So with Legion, did you mean that they had a like a more in-depth story being like highlighted, or did they have specific videos that you were talking about?
Oh, they had 3 specific videos, and yeah, they had 3 specific videos highlighting different characters, and one was Gul'dan, so like Ashara is the equivalent, to Gul'dan, and then we had Illidan, who was a major character, and then we had a third character, which I'm seeming to
Chad is telling us that it was Khadgar.
It's Khadgar. Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah, so that makes sense how we have like Khadgar as like the well-known kind of like happy character. We have like Illidan as the emo character. So it makes sense that maybe like Jaina is in the Khadgar type role, and then Sylvanas is in the Illidan type role for this balancing out cinematic different angles.
I really like these parallels between expansions. I feel like Perk is really good at this because she's always been in it. It's like things that as a player of the game, and like knowing the game to a good amount still, I don't realize those like parallels between expansions. So it's always good to have Perk highlight those things. That's really interesting.
Well, thank you. I didn't actually put that in the article, so I'll make sure to write down that observation and add as well to my article after this.
I think those parallels are really, really sweet. And I think having that little story with Sylvanas and her sisters also opens up more, more interest in knowing what is going on in her head or in the past. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be awesome.
I don't know when we're getting them, because some of those Jaina images are for things you can do max level in Kulturas. So I don't know if it makes sense to drop it now. And the Ashara stuff, my theory is that maybe we will get these like around Gamescom or whenever they're ready to talk about like the next phase of the story, like the upcoming raid. Because they could be like, oh, like we knew Ashara was gonna be a boss in some raid, but now we have the name of the raid, and like here's a little cinematic to give you some more background on her if you don't know who she is.
Yeah.
So
I think this wraps up most of what we wanted to mention to you guys. I am eyeing the chat still, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. This is probably going to be the show before the pre-patch. Or the last show before the pre-patch. Not just the show before. It's probably going to be the last show before the pre-patch.
But if it's not, we'll be pleasantly surprised, and we'll find fun stuff to talk about next week, I'm sure.
Yeah, there is no confirmation for the pre-patch date as of yet. If it's on the 17th, we would probably get an announcement by tomorrow. If we don't get an announcement by tomorrow, then it would probably be on the 24th instead. Right.
And we don't think it can be later than that, because there are 2 weeks related to the Teldrassil events, and then August 7th is when you can do the Undercity part if you've bought Battle for Azeroth.
So 2 weeks for Teldrassil story and 1 week for the Battle for Lordran story. So that means we need at least 3 weeks for that.
Yep.
Let's see. Just eyeing questions to see if there's anything that we haven't really talked about. Do you think it will be a feat of strength to obtain all challenge artifact appearances once they are no longer available? You mean like all the Mage Tower ones, for example? It's nothing that we've seen, so probably not. Not a specific feat of strength, But I guess you never know. Maybe it's something that they do decide to add later on when they realize that the interest to get all of them is actually very interesting or very fun for people.
Yeah, I think they wouldn't do it after though, because usually if you add like some reward for something, they're like, oh, like I really wanted this, and like if I had known, I would have gotten my
That's
remaining
true.
appearances.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember the stink surrounding the Death Knight class questline, how there was an achievement for killing the red whelps, and I think Blizzard pulled that because they're like, oh, like this was like a one-time thing, and we don't want it. So I can see Blizzard not saying, oh, we don't want to add an achievement, and people feel bad that they didn't do this back in the day or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not WoW related, but what is your natural hair color? I'll tell you guys a trick. If you want to know a girl's natural hair color, probably look at her eyebrows. So yeah, it's pretty brown. It's brown. Do we know what will happen with the Herald of Titan in BFA? On beta, I don't see the achievement in my feat of strength listed or anywhere else.
It should be around. If you're not sure, like if any achievement, if it gives you points or is categorized, you can look it up on the Battle for Azeroth subdomain of Wowhead and see if it has moved anywhere. So I go there and I see that it's listed as the Feat of Strength raid category. So it's still there. Okay. This could also be useful if you're like, oh, like what happens to my first aid achievements? So for example, Field Medic is under Profession achievement now, but then in BFA pre-patch, Field Medic is listed under Legacy Profession Feat of Strength.
Mm-hmm. Will Blizzard announce the pre-patch, or is it just going to drop? They will probably announce it, because it's a pretty big deal. People need to know because, you know, there might be some last-minute things that people want to take care of, whether it's, you know, picking up the last quest for the Field Medic achievement, because that's going away, or maybe working on their last class or spec for the Mage Tower. There has to be some kind of announcement. We're unsure how early the announcement has to be. I actually guessed 1 week. It might still be 1 week, but that would mean that the pre-patch has to be on the 24th. Yep. So we'll see. We'll see. If it's on the 17th, we're expecting an announcement at least by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that wraps up all the questions as well.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Hopefully we handled the questions okay, even though we didn't have Sass around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sass is with us in spirit. He has no internet, so he wasn't able to help us today, but he's here in spirit. He's helping us.
Yep, he really wanted to help. He even asked his neighbor if they could help, but they also did not have power.
Yeah. What class do you both play? Park, what do you play? Mainly.
I play I was a rogue and I swapped to Demon Hunter to try it out in Legion, but I might be going back to rogue. I don't know.
All right. I'm a warlock. Always warlock. Stay warlock. And yeah, I think that's it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching and supporting, for following, subscribing, resubscribing. Thank you for all of that. Also, thank you and shout out to people who are watching this on the Wowhead front page. Hello to you guys as well. You also matter. If you were wondering, like, oh, like I'm watching the stream here on the Wowhead front page and I wanted to ask a question, but I wasn't able to. We're on Twitch and we use the Twitch chat to read questions. So if you still want to come in and ask a question, go for it real quick. Otherwise, for future shows, just don't be shy and enter the chat and talk to us from the Twitch website. Also, a quick shout out to people who are using Wowhead Premium on the Wowhead site. Wowhead Premium is a subscription which allows you to remove all the ads on the website and also gives you other extra perks such as your own color when you're typing in the forums. Don't be shy. Yeah, don't be shy. Just come here.
Yep. Say hi.
Just come here and say hi. Also, Perk, do you want to do another high five?
Oh yeah, wait, it's this this way.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. We can do that. Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So a bit higher up.
Yeah.
Lower. There. Perfect. Okay. 3,
great.
2, 1, go. We did it.
Yay.
Now we just need a fake clapping sound.
Yeah. We can hit the desk.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. For next time.
Yep.
Okay, one last question that I see in the chat. Will ensembles of the season 7 armor be available with the end of the season?
Perk. I believe they already so the ones from past, I thought they made that available earlier because there was complaints it was like season 5 and 6 and 7 it was taking forever to get them.
Yeah, didn't they make 5, 6, and 7 available at the same time?
Yeah, it's all the same thing. But that is a good note that the BFA elite armor sets will work slightly differently. So when you hit certain rep levels, you'll automatically not rep levels. When you hit certain ranking levels, you'll automatically get like elite shoulders if you hit gladiator, and like helm if you hit super gladiator, just automatically.
Someone mentions only the elite ensembles are available. I'm not sure yet. Maybe chat can also help us, give us some information on that.
Yeah, there's nothing super unique, I think, about season 7. Like the armor, even for non-elite, is just the same after the 3 seasons. There's gonna be no rewards in the postseason. There's gonna be like gear, but there's gonna be no gladiator ranks or stuff like that to play for.
Okay, so someone says the regular ensembles for season 5, 6, 7 are only available via BGs. I'm hoping it's available in pre-patch.
Yeah, I could check that on the PTR. We could see if the vendors are up. That's a good idea. I'll try
we can take a look and then add it to the notes, and so you can read about it later. From the show notes. But yeah, again, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys again next week, same time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central European time. I got the times right?
Yay!
Yeah, I got them right. And hopefully when we see each other next time, it is already pre-patch.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Take care. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.